In the heart of the Nebulan Dominion, where stars shimmered like scattered diamonds across a velvet sky and twin moons cast silver halos over towering crystal spires, stood the royal palace of Zintra, a fortress carved from moonstone and infused with ancient energy. Its halls hummed with quiet power, lined with bioluminescent vines that pulsed gently in rhythm with the planet's heartbeat. At its center, upon a throne woven from living light and stardust, sat Queen Vera, ruler of the 7 celestial provinces and sovereign of a civilization older than human history itself. Her skin was pale as fresh snow under starlight, glowing faintly with an inner luminescence, and her hair flowed like liquid fire down her back, long crimson waves that seemed to burn without consuming. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, glowed gold like molten suns, capable of reading thoughts not spoken and emotions not felt by others. She was beauty shaped by evolution, wisdom wrapped in elegance, and authority cloaked in grace. Yet for all her power, she sat alone. For centuries, the queens of Zintra had ruled unchallenged, their reigns stretching across eons, sustained by longevity fields and genetic perfection. But tradition demanded more than rule, it demanded union. Not for love, not for companionship alone, though such things were not forbidden, but for balance. The prophecy of the twin stars foretold that only when a queen joined with a soul from beyond the stars, someone unaltered, unevolved, raw in spirit, could the cycle renew and the dominion survive the coming eclipse of time. And so, every 100 years, the call went out across galaxies. Is there no one brave enough to marry me? It echoed through quantum relays, danced on solar winds, whispered into the dreams of dreamers on distant worlds. Many came, warriors, scholars, diplomats, genetically enhanced beings from advanced empires. All bowed before her, dazzled by her presence, humbled by her aura. But none stepped forward. None dared take her hand. Until that day, the grand amphitheater of the palace brimmed with life. Aliens of 1,000 forms gathered beneath the open dome, where the sky bled purple and green with auroras. Delegates from crystalline hive minds hovered silently above the ground. Insectoid elders clicked rhythmic approval. Gas-based entities floated like sentient clouds, pulsing in anticipation. On golden screens orbiting the chamber, live feeds showed billions watching across star systems. This was no mere ceremony, it was a galactic event. And then she rose. Queen Vera descended the dais, her gown shifting colors like a nebula in motion, crafted from photon silk that responded to emotion. With each step, gravity seemed to soften around her, as if the universe itself bowed. Her voice, clear and resonant, carried not just sound but meaning, translated directly into the minds of all present. Is there no one brave enough, she asked, to stand beside me, to share this crown, this burden, this life? Is there no soul among the stars willing to become part of something greater? Silence followed, a deep, echoing silence, then murmurs. Some laughed, dry, clicking sounds from the Arcturian observers. Others exchanged glances, shaking multiple heads in disbelief. Who would dare? She was immortal. She commanded fleets of warships that could disintegrate planets with a thought. Her people lived for millennia, reshaped matter with willpower, and mastered time in small doses. And yet, she sought a mortal, a fragile being, a human. Then, from the far end of the hall, a door hissed open. All eyes turned. A man walked in. He wasn't tall by alien standards, barely reaching the shoulders of the armored guards flanking the entrance. His build was lean, weathered by labor rather than combat. He wore a simple jumpsuit, patched at the elbow, stained with engine grease and something suspiciously like ketchup. His boots clunked against the polished floor, echoing in the sacred hush. His hair was dark, messy, curling slightly at the nape of his neck, and his face bore the kind of tired determination found in those who fix too many broken things and still show up anyway. His name was Joran, former mechanic of the interstellar freighter SS Dust Bunny, currently unemployed, recently divorced, twice, and holder of 17 parking tickets across 3 solar systems. No one expected him. No one even knew he was allowed inside. Joran didn't walk with pride or arrogance. He walked like someone who'd been late for work too many times and was trying not to draw attention. But he kept moving, past the rows of stunned dignitaries, past the floating jellyfish ambassadors, past the 6-eyed priest chanting blessings in reverse. He stopped 10 paces from the throne, wiped his palms on his pants, and looked up, and smiled. Not a nervous grin, not a desperate plea, a real, lopsided, slightly crooked smile. as if he just remembered a good joke. Queen Vera blinked. Once, twice. Her golden eyes narrowed slightly, scanning him. Not physically, but deeper. Into memory, intention, fear, desire. What she found surprised her. He was afraid. Of course he was. Any sane person would be. Standing before a goddess queen from another world, surrounded by creatures that could dissolve steel with a sneeze, fear was natural. But beneath it, something else. Curiosity, stubbornness, a strange kind of hope, and humor. So much humor, bubbling just below the surface like a soda can about to explode. You, she said, her voice softer now, are not what I expected. No, Joran admitted, scratching the back of his neck. Probably not. Look, I don't have a fancy title or a spaceship named after me or whatever. I fix things. Engines mostly. Sometimes toilets on long-haul ships. I'm not saying I'm great at relationships. I mean, my last wife left because I tried to optimize the toaster and accidentally made it scream. But I show up, and I finish what I start. A ripple passed through the crowd. Was he joking? Was this some kind of insult? But Vera didn't react with anger. Instead, her lips twitched. Just once. Almost imperceptible. But those who knew her, her handmaidens, her advisors, gasped. The queen hadn't almost smiled in 317 years. You understand what you are offering? She asked. To marry me is not merely ceremony. It is bond. Your life becomes entwined with mine. You will age slowly, yes, but you will also feel what I feel. Bear what I bear. Fight what I fight. And when I die far, far in the future, you will go with me. Joran nodded slowly. Yeah, I read the pamphlet. There was no pamphlet. There should be. Could have used diagrams. Laughter burst from somewhere in the crowd. Short, sharp, quickly silenced. But Vera let it linger. And why? She asked, stepping down from the final step. Now they stood eye to eye, or nearly. She was still a few inches taller. Why you? Why now? Why risk everything for a stranger? Joran exhaled, hands in his pockets. See, thing is, I've spent most of my life fixing machines that don't care if I live or die. Ships that'll float on without me. Tools that don't say thanks. And people, well, people tend to leave. Or I do. But when I heard your voice, the one that came through the speakers on the docking station, I didn't hear a queen. I heard someone lonely. Like the kind of loneliness you get when you've got everything except someone to tell you your hair looks nice today. He paused. I know I'm not impressive. I don't speak 10 languages or pilot war cruisers. But maybe that's the point. Maybe you don't need another perfect being. Maybe you need someone who'll tell you when your crown is crooked. Or who burns dinner and laughs about it. Someone who doesn't treat you like a statue. Just a person. Silence returned. But different this time. Warmer. Charged with something ancient and rare. Possibility. Then slowly Vera reached out. Her fingers, long and delicate, brushed his cheek. A jolt ran through him. Not pain, but awareness. As if every cell in his body suddenly remembered how to sing. Images flashed behind his eyes. Cities rising from oceans, wars fought in silence, children laughing under alien suns, and her, always her, standing at the edge of time, waiting. She withdrew her hand. You are either the bravest man in the universe, she said, or the most foolish. Probably both, Joran said with a shrug. And then, before anyone could react, she took his hand. The moment their skin touched, the palace trembled. Not violently, but like a harp string struck in harmony. Light erupted from the throne, spiraling upward in ribbons of gold and crimson. The bioluminescent vines blazed to life, singing in a language older than words. Above, the twin moons aligned, casting intersecting beams through the dome, converging directly over them. The air thickened with energy. Somewhere, a 1,000-year-old clock began ticking again. The bonding had begun. It wasn't magic. Not exactly. It was science so advanced it appeared as myth. Neural sync, genetic resonance, emotional mirroring, all initiated by touch and consent. Their heartbeats synchronized. His breath matched hers. For the first time in centuries, Vera felt something foreign yet familiar. Shared vulnerability. But not everyone celebrated. From the shadows of the upper balconies, figures stirred. Cloaked in darkness, their forms blurred by phase shift technology, they watched with cold precision. The Crimson Hand, an ancient sect opposed to any mingling with lesser species, had waited for this moment. They believed purity of bloodline was sacred, that allowing a mortal human to join the royal line was not just sacrilege, but extinction. Their leader, Malric, a tall, gaunt noble with obsidian eyes and skin like cracked porcelain, clenched his fist. The contamination begins. He hissed into a hidden comms device. Initiate Phase 1. Let the universe see what happens when we defy destiny. Within minutes, alarms wailed through the palace corridors. Security drones spun wildly, systems glitching. Energy shields flickered. From orbit, 3 warships, supposedly neutral peacekeepers from the Outer Rim Alliance, broke formation and powered weapons. Chaos erupted. Joran barely had time to process the warmth in his chest when the floor shook. A blast rocked the eastern wing. Screams followed. The crowd scattered as emergency barriers dropped from the ceiling. Vera didn't panic. She turned, pulling Joran close with one arm while raising the other. A pulse of energy shot from her palm, reinforcing the central dome with a translucent shield. "Stay behind me," she ordered. "I can help," Joran insisted, already scanning the room like he was assessing a broken engine. "Where's the main power conduit? If they're jamming signals, it's probably a feedback loop in the harmonic stabilizers." Vera stared at him. "You can feel the energy grid?" "Well, yeah. It's making a weird buzzing noise in my teeth." She almost smiled again. Together, they moved, not as queen and subject, but as partners. Vera deflected plasma bolts with waves of force, her movements fluid and precise. Joran, meanwhile, ducked behind consoles, ripped open access panels, and rewired circuits with tools he pulled from his pockets. Pliers, a multi-wrench, and what looked suspiciously like a bent spoon. "It's not just external attacks," he shouted over the din. "Someone's hacking the internal AI. It thinks the palace is under siege and is locking down critical systems. Only someone with high-level clearance could do that," Vera realized. "One of my own." Before she could react, a blast tore through the western archway. Stone shattered. Through the smoke stepped Malric, flanked by elite enforcers clad in black armor that absorbed light. In his hand, he held a weapon unlike any other, a spiral rod humming with unstable energy. "Foolish queen," Malric spat. "You would let this, a mechanic, pollute our lineage? We are gods among mortals, and you offer our future to a man who fixes toilets." Joran frowned. "Hey, space toilets are complicated. One wrong calibration and you've got zero-gravity sewage in the mess hall. I saved 3 lives on the Dust Bunny just last year." Malric raised the weapon. "Then let this be your final repair." He fired. Time slowed. Vera threw herself in front of Joran. The beam struck her shoulder, sending her sprawling. Joran caught her, his arms trembling under her weight. Her blood, if it could be called that, was not red but silver, glowing faintly as it seeped through her gown. "Don't move," Joran whispered, pressing his hand over the wound. To his shock, he felt something, a pull, a connection. Images flooded him again. Vera as a child, learning to control her powers. Vera mourning her mother, the previous queen. Vera standing alone on a balcony, watching stars die, wondering if anyone would ever truly see her. And then, a sensation, warmth spreading from his palm into her. Her breathing steadied. The bleeding slowed. What are you doing?" she gasped. "I don't know," Joran admitted. "I think I'm fixing you." It wasn't healing. Not exactly. But somehow, his mind, simple, human, unevolved, was syncing with the bonding field, amplifying her natural regeneration. Where her cells struggled, his presence stabilized them. It was like jump-starting a fusion core with a bicycle battery. Ridiculous, impossible, and yet working. Malric roared in fury. "Kill them both!" The enforcers advanced. But then laughter. Clear, loud, unafraid. Joran was laughing. "You really think," he said, helping Vera to her feet, "that I survived 2 divorces, a mutiny on the Dust Bunny, and that time I accidentally activated the self-destruct sequence during a routine scan, just to die here? Nah, I've dealt with worse contractors." He grabbed a loose cable from the floor, twisted it around the spoon, and jammed it into a nearby power node. Sparks flew. The entire palace shuddered. And then lights. Everywhere. Brighter. Stronger. The AI rebooted. Defense turrets reactivated. Drones whirred back to life, targeting the intruders. "You just hotwired a planetary defense system with a spoon?" Vera asked, stunned. "Improvisation," Joran said, grinning. "Best tool in the box." With the tide turning, Vera unleashed her full power. Golden light erupted from her hands, forming a wave that disarmed the enforcers, sending their weapons spinning into the air. Malric tried to flee, but the palace itself seemed to resist him. The doors sealed, the floors shifted. He was captured by his own betrayal. Silence returned, broken only by the soft hum of restored systems. Joran slumped against a pillar, exhausted. So, does this mean I passed the test? Vera approached him slowly. Without a word, she reached up and removed her crown. A delicate lattice of light and crystal, said to contain the soul of every queen before her. She placed it gently in his hands. You did not just pass, she said softly. You redefined what bravery means. Outside, the skies cleared. The rebel warships retreated. Across the galaxy, billions exhaled. The broadcast continued, showing the unlikely pair standing together. She, a queen of stars. He, a grease-stained mechanic from nowhere. But their journey had only begun. For the bond between them was growing stronger, deeper. Joran began to notice changes. He could sense emotions without words. He dreamed in colors he'd never seen. Once, he absent-mindedly levitated a cup of coffee, then spilled it all over his lap. Okay, he muttered. Definitely not used to that. Vera laughed. A rich, warm sound that echoed through the palace gardens, where they now walked under blooming night flowers that sang when touched. You'll learn, she said. We'll learn together. But seriously, Joran added, can I get some instructions? Like, a manual? Human in alien royalty. Do's and don'ts? Because I really don't want to accidentally declare war on a planet by yawning at the wrong ambassador. She smiled. I'll write one, in crayon if you prefer. They strolled on, past fountains that sprayed liquid light, past statues of queens long gone. Some looked stern, others proud. None looked happy. You know, Joran mused, all these statues, they're all serious, like they swallowed a ruler. Did nobody ever crack a joke around here? Humor was considered undignified, Vera admitted. Emotion, controlled. Laughter, rare. Well, that's gotta change, Joran said. First order of business. Comedy nights in the throne room. Second, install a snack bar. Third, find out why the royal bathroom has 12 taps and no toilet paper. Vera covered her mouth, but her eyes sparkled. That night, beneath the twin moons, they stood on the highest balcony of the palace. The city glittered below, alive with renewed hope. Somewhere, music played, real music, not just ceremonial tones, but something upbeat, almost danceable. I never thought I'd find someone, Vera confessed. I believed the prophecy, yes, but I feared it would be duty, not choice. That I'd be bound to a perfect stranger, flawless in every way but empty in spirit. Joran slipped an arm around her. And I never thought I'd be chosen by a literal space queen. My exes would lose their minds. She leaned into him. Are you afraid? Terrified, he said honestly. But not of you. Never of you. I'm scared of messing up. Of not being enough. Of waking up one day and realizing this was all a dream. It's not a dream, she whispered. Feel it. He did. The bond between them, warm, steady, alive, like a second heartbeat. And then, from the edge of the garden, a tiny figure emerged. A child, no older than 6, with pale skin and fiery red hair, dressed in a miniature version of the royal robes. She stared at them with wide, golden eyes. Mother, she said. Vera froze. Joran blinked. Surprise. The girl ran forward. I hid when the attack came. The servants told me to stay quiet. I didn't want them to hurt you. Vera dropped to her knees, tears, silver, like her blood, streaming down her face. Lyra, my little star. I thought you were safe on the moon colony. I came back, Lyra said, burying her face in Vera's shoulder. I wanted to see the wedding. Joran's heart cracked. He crouched down slowly. Hey there, I'm Joran. I guess I'm kind of your new dad? Stepdad? Co-ruler? I don't actually know the title. Lyra peeked at him. You're the one who fixed the palace with a spoon? Guilty. She grinned. Cool. Vera looked at him over Lyra's head, her expression full of wonder, gratitude, love. The universe had thrown them together, queen and mechanic, alien and human, power and simplicity. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. But far away, in the cold depths between galaxies, something stirred. A signal pulsed through the void, encoded in prime numbers, marking coordinates. And on a forgotten moon, buried beneath ice and ruin, a machine, ancient, dormant, hungry, began to awaken. The days that followed were unlike any in the history of Zintra. The royal palace, once a place of solemn rituals and silent corridors, now echoed with laughter, real, unguarded, contagious laughter. Joran had declared the throne room too stuffy for bonding, and replaced the ancient ceremonial drapes with something he called mood lighting, a string of blinking blue bulbs salvaged from a decommissioned cargo pod. He also installed a snack dispenser near the council chamber that dispensed roasted space nuts and fizzy grape soda imported from Earth's forgotten colonies. At first, the courtiers were horrified. Then they tried the soda. Then they demanded refills. Queen Vera found herself smiling more in 1 week than she had in a century. She caught herself giggling at Joran's terrible jokes. Why don't aliens ever get lost? Because they always space out. And even participated once in what he called karaoke night, singing a hauntingly beautiful Nebulan lullaby while Joran accompanied her on a repurposed plasma harp he jury-rigged from old shield emitters. Lyra, their newly revealed daughter, danced barefoot on the marble floors, her red hair flying like fire, her golden eyes alight with joy. For the first time in generations, the palace didn't feel like a monument to power. It felt like a home. But beneath the warmth, the bond between Joran and Vera deepened in ways neither could fully understand. It wasn't just emotional. It was biological, cosmic. Joran began dreaming in Vera's memories. Her childhood on the moon gardens, her training in the Hall of Echoes, the quiet grief of ruling alone. And she, in turn, saw flashes of his life. Fixing engines under flickering lights, eating cold rations in zero gravity, calling his mother on Earth just to hear her voice say, "You'll find your way, son." They woke some mornings holding each other, tears on their faces, having shared dreams they never lived. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the twin moons rise, Joran whispered, "I think I'm changing." Vera turned to him. "What do you mean?" "I can feel things. Not just you, the planet, the people. Like I'm connected to everything here. And sometimes, when I concentrate, I can move small things without touching them. Like that cup this morning." She studied him, her glowing eyes searching his soul. "The bond is accelerating. It's not just linking us. It's transforming you. Your human biology is adapting, merging with the royal lineage. You're becoming something new, something never seen before." Joran scratched his head. "So what? I'm turning into an alien?" "No," she said softly. "You're becoming more human. Just expanded." He laughed. "Great. Now I'll need a bigger jumpsuit." But the peace did not last. 3 weeks after the failed coup, a distress signal reached the palace, not from within the Dominion, but from the edge of known space. A research outpost on the ice moon of KRYTH9 had gone silent. Last transmission. "It's awake. It remembers. It hungers." Joran frowned. "KRYTH9? That's where we detected the strange energy pulse, right? The one that showed up right after our bonding." Vera nodded, her expression darkening. "Yes, and the coordinates match the location of the old machine, the one spoken of in forbidden texts, the devourer of stars. I thought it was myth." "Apparently," Joran said, grabbing his tool belt. "Myths are bad at staying dead." They assembled a small team. Lyra insisted on coming, and after much debate, and a very convincing argument involving her ability to disable security drones with a whistle, she was allowed under strict supervision. The ship they took was no war cruiser, but a sleek exploration vessel Joran had helped redesign during his downtime, nicknamed the Wrench, because you never know when you'll need to fix the universe. As they approached KRYTH9, the sky twisted. Stars blinked out in sequence, as if being erased. The ice moon loomed ahead, its surface cracked with glowing fissures, pulsing like veins. And at its center, rising from the frozen wasteland, stood a structure, towering, black, shaped like a spiral of broken teeth. The old machine. "It's alive," Vera whispered, "and it's feeding on the bond between us." Joran stared. "Wait us? What did we do?" "The prophecy spoke of a union that would renew the Dominion," she explained. "But there was another part, buried in encrypted archives. The same energy that renews life can also awaken death. Our bond created a resonance, a beacon, and it called this." Joran groaned. "So we accidentally rang the doorbell to the apocalypse?" "Essentially." They landed cautiously. The air was thin, the cold biting. As they stepped onto the ice, the ground trembled. From the depths of the machine, a voice emerged, not through sound, but directly into their minds. Ancient, cold, hungry. You have returned. Joran blinked. We've never been here before. No, but she has. And you carry the echo of the first queen. The one who sealed me away. You are her opposite. Her flaw. Her love. Vera stiffened. That's impossible. The first queen ruled 10,000 years ago. Time is a loop. The voice hissed. And love is the weakest link. Break it and all collapses. Suddenly, beams of dark energy shot from the machine. Joran pushed Lyra behind him, raising a makeshift energy shield cobbled together from the ship's hull plating. Vera unleashed a wave of golden light, deflecting the attack, but the force knocked her back. I can't hold it, she cried. It's feeding on my emotions, on our bond. Joran looked at her, then at the machine, then at Lyra, trembling but brave. And he made a decision. Without a word, he ran, not toward the ship, but straight into the heart of the machine. Joran, no! Vera screamed. But he was already inside. The chamber was vast, filled with swirling darkness and floating fragments of shattered worlds. At its center hovered a core, a pulsing orb of anti-light, devouring everything around it. The voice boomed louder. Foolish mortal, you cannot win. Joran wiped frost from his face. Look, pal, I've spent my whole life fixing things that weren't supposed to work. Broken engines, leaky fuel lines, marriages. You're just another busted circuit. He pulled out his multi-wrench, his pliers, and the bent spoon, his lucky tools. You feed on fear, Joran said, walking closer. On hate, on the idea that love is weak. But you're wrong. Love's not weak. It's persistent. It shows up late. It burns dinner. It forgets anniversaries. But it keeps going. And yeah, it gets scared. But it still walks into scary places with a spoon and a prayer. He raised the spoon. And you know what else? Love doesn't fight fair. With a grunt, he jammed the spoon into a crack in the core. A spark. Then a surge. The machine shrieked. An unearthly sound that cracked the ice moon in half. Joran was thrown back, his body slamming against the wall. Pain exploded through him. He tasted blood. His vision blurred. But the core, it flickered. Not destroyed. Disrupted. Because the spoon, simple, human, imperfect, had introduced chaos. Randomness. Noise. The old machine ran on perfect logic, on absolute control. But a bent spoon? A man who fixed toilets? That was unpredictability incarnate. And in that moment of imbalance, the bond between Joran and Vera flared brighter than ever. She appeared in the chamber, glowing like a star, Lyra beside her, hands clasped. We are not afraid, Vera declared. We are not perfect, but we are together. Their combined energy, hers divine, his stubbornly human, flooded the core. Light battled darkness. Love clashed with oblivion. And then silence. The core dimmed. The voice faded. Impossible. And then nothing. The machine collapsed inward, sealing itself once more beneath layers of ice and time. Joran lay on the ground, barely conscious. Vera rushed to him, cradling his head. You idiot, she whispered, tears falling like liquid silver. You could have died. He grinned weakly. But I didn't. And hey, look, the spoon's still shiny. She laughed through her tears. Back on Zintra, the people rejoiced. The threat was over. The prophecy fulfilled. Not through war, not through perfection, but through love, humor, and a mechanic with a bent spoon. Joran recovered slowly. His body bore scars, some physical, some deeper. He could no longer eat spicy food, something about his digestive system evolving. He occasionally floated 3 inches off the ground when emotional. And once, he sneezed so hard he short-circuited the palace weather system, causing a sudden rainstorm indoors. But he was alive, and he was loved. Years passed. The Dominion flourished. Under Vera and Joran's rule, it became not just powerful, but kind. Comedy nights became official holidays. The snack bars multiplied. Children were taught not only science and history, but how to laugh, how to fail, how to fix things with patience and a little grease. Lyra grew into a brilliant young woman, wise beyond her years, yet full of mischief. She once reprogrammed the Royal Guard's armor to play polka music whenever they moved. When scolded, she simply said, Dad says joy is a form of resistance. And Joran? He never stopped being a mechanic. Even as co-ruler of a galactic empire, he could be found in the lower levels of the palace, elbow-deep in wiring, muttering about Stupid hover thrones overheating again. He wrote the manual he'd always wanted. So you married a space queen. A human's guide to surviving royalty, gravity, and in-laws who can read minds. One evening, as the twin moons bathed the palace in soft light, Joran and Vera stood once more on the balcony where it all began. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "Choosing me?" She turned to him, her golden eyes full of stars. "Every single day," he gasped, mock offended. Then she smiled. "I regret not finding you sooner." He pulled her close. "Well, we've got a long time to make up for it." And as they stood there, hand in hand, the wind carrying the distant sound of laughter and music, the universe itself seemed to sigh in contentment. For in the end, it wasn't strength that saved them. It wasn't perfection. It was the courage to be imperfect, to love loudly, to show up with a spoon if necessary and say, "I'm here." The wedding was not like any other in the annals of Zintra. There were no silent processions, no cold rituals spoken in ancient tongues under starless skies. Instead, the royal palace erupted in celebration so bright, so loud, and so utterly unexpected that even the bioluminescent vines seemed to dance with joy. The sky above Nebula Dominion shimmered with fireworks crafted from compressed stardust, exploding into colors that didn't exist in any known spectrum. Music, real music, wild and rhythmic, poured from floating speakers Joran had rigged from salvaged comms arrays. It was part earth rock, part alien synth, and part something entirely new, a fusion of worlds. Queen Vera walked down the aisle not on a gravity-defying platform, but beside Joran, hand in hand, both barefoot. She wore a gown woven from moonlight thread and living flame flowers that bloomed with every step she took. He wore a cleaned-up version of his mechanic's jumpsuit, custom-tailored, slightly sparkly, and complete with a pocket full of tools, just in case. Lyra, now radiant in a tiny silver robe, carried their bond ring, a simple band forged from a piece of the SS Dust Bunny's engine core and fused with a shard of royal crystal. When the high speaker asked if they came of their own free will, Joran grinned and said, "I showed up late, but I'm here now." And the entire crowd burst into laughter. They were married beneath the open dome as the twin moons aligned, bathing them in overlapping halos of silver and gold. And when they kissed, the palace itself seemed to sigh, a deep, resonant hum that rippled through the city, awakening dormant fountains and causing forgotten seeds to sprout in the royal gardens. From that day forward, life in the royal palace changed forever. Children came. Not one or two, but a joyful, chaotic, wonderful army of them. First came twins, boy and girl, born under a triple eclipse, their skin pale as starlight, their hair blazing red like their mother's, but their eyes were warm brown, just like Joran's. They named them Kaelin and Mira. Kaelin could levitate toys by age 2. Mira could fix broken circuits with her fingers and once rebooted the palace AI by humming a nursery rhyme. Then came another set, triplets, 2 girls and a boy, born during a solar storm so intense it knocked out power across 3 systems. Their names were Nessa, Tova, and Ren. Ren, the youngest, once accidentally turned the throne room into a jungle overnight using a stolen bioregulator. "I wanted a treehouse," he explained, unrepentant. By the time the 5th child arrived, a quiet, thoughtful girl named Alara who communicated mostly through telepathic doodles, it became clear. The royal bloodline had not just been renewed. It had exploded with new life, a blend of alien evolution and human resilience, creating a generation unlike any before. The palace, once pristine and orderly, transformed into a whirlwind of laughter, sticky fingers, floating toys, and frequent minor energy surges caused by overexcited toddlers unlocking their powers. Walls were occasionally scorched, floors sometimes turned into trampolines. One morning, the entire East Wing briefly became transparent due to an experiment gone wrong involving love, curiosity, and a toaster. But Joran loved it. He built a workshop inside the palace, dubbed the Grease Pit, where he taught the kids how to fix things. Engines, drones, emotional circuits. Everything breaks, he'd say, grease smudged on his cheek. Even hearts. But most things can be fixed. With patience. And sometimes duct tape. Vera ruled with wisdom, but now she ruled with warmth. Council meetings were often interrupted by small children climbing onto her lap or asking if they could borrow a war satellite to watch cartoons. Diplomats learned to negotiate while dodging toy spaceships zipping overhead. Ambassadors from stiff, formal empires were horrified at first, until they saw the queen laughing as her youngest daughter turned a peace treaty signing into a finger-painting session. "You've created chaos," said the grand envoy of the iron clusters, staring at a wall covered in glitter and handprints. "Yes," Vera replied, smiling as Joran wiped paint off Lyra's nose. "And it is beautiful." As the years rolled on, the children grew, each unique, each powerful, each deeply human in spirit despite their cosmic heritage. Lyra became chief guardian of the Dominion, protector of the peace, feared and beloved. Kalen pioneered a new form of interstellar travel powered by emotion-based energy. Mira opened the first galactic school for hybrid beings, where children of all species learned not just science, but kindness, humor, and how to make the perfect grilled cheese. Joran and Vera traveled less, but their influence spread farther than any fleet ever could. They became legends, not because they wielded ultimate power, but because they proved that love, in its messiest, silliest, most stubborn form, could reshape the universe. One evening, long after the last child had grown and flown from the nest, Joran sat on the balcony with Vera, now both touched by time. His hair was streaked with gray, his hands worn from decades of fixing, building, holding. Hers still glowed faintly, her red hair now threaded with silver like strands of comet dust. They held hands, silent, watching the stars blink awake. 27 grandkids, Joran mused, and 3 great-grandkids already trying to hack the moon's weather system. We made quite the mess, didn't we? Vera leaned her head on his shoulder. The best kind, he chuckled. You know, back when you asked, "Is there no one brave enough to marry me?" I didn't do it because I was brave. Oh, I did it because you looked sad, and I couldn't stand it, even if it meant facing aliens, coups, ancient doom machines, and 16 kids who think teleportation is a good way to avoid bedtime. She smiled. And would you do it again, knowing everything? In answer, he turned to her, slow and deliberate, and hugged her, soft, deep, full of decades of laughter, tears, repairs, and love. When he pulled away, he whispered, "Try and stop me." And high above, the stars burned a little brighter, as if the universe itself was smiling. For in the end, the greatest force in all creation was not power, nor technology, nor immortality. It was a grease-stained man with a spoon, a queen with fire in her hair, and the endless, unstoppable tide of love they unleashed upon the cosmos. One child, one laugh, one repaired heart at a time.